Hello, my name is Jeffrey, and welcome to another edition of APLCasts. Today, we will be discussing Brad Thor's new novel, A Hidden Order. Brad Thor has become one of my favorite authors in the thriller genre. His books usually are relevant and timely with current events in the news. A Hidden Order brings back ex-Secret Service agent Scott Horvath, who is still working with the Carlton Group and his boss, Reed Carlton, as they are hired by the Federal Reserve. The chairman of the Federal Reserve has just died, and their board of governors have selected 5 replacements for the position. Trouble starts when the 5 candidates are all kidnapped on the same night and one is found murdered the next morning. The Federal Reserve wants this quiet, so it hires the Carlton Group to figure out who is behind this, and they want Horvath to try to find the other candidates before they are killed off as well. This book takes place in Boston, and along the way Horvath crosses paths with Laura Cordero, a beautiful Boston police detective who is connected to this case in ways she doesn't even realize. As I mentioned previously, one reason why I like Hidden Order and other novels by Brad Thor is because the topics of his books are relevant and timely with current events. His last book, Blacklist, dealt with a non-government agency hired by the government that used the information they collected while spying on people to try and take over the country. If you have been watching the news the past couple months, then you have heard of Edward Snowden and his employer hired by the government to spy on people. Blacklist also dealt with how much information can be obtained about you by looking at your cell phone, GPS, and credit card records. His latest book, Hidden Order, involves the Federal Reserve and its role in the United States. His book really opened my eyes when it came to the Federal Reserve, as I always thought that it was a part of the federal government. I was wrong. It is in fact its own entity. It is actually just a central bank of America creating rules and regulations for other banks. Basically, the Federal Reserve doesn't have to answer to anyone in the federal government. This book really makes you take a look at the Federal Reserve and makes you wonder whose best interests they are really looking after. This book has great action to go along with the history lesson in it. I will say that the violence in this novel is a little bit darker than what was in Thor's previous novels. If you are a fan of the mystery thriller genre, then I highly recommend Brad Thor's Hidden Order.